average teacher, I am the streamer. Americana writer, Gonzo Education. I spend it while streaming on a Hawaiian vacation. I'm more than white, he loves the convenience sweeper. Until he covered them with coffee and creamer. Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G. He's your average teacher on Iowa Street. Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G. He's your average teacher on Iowa Street. Mr. G.
Hey everybody, I'm Mr.G. You know me. Hello, welcome to the show today. Woo, woo, woo. Let me go ahead and get your guys' voices on here. You know me.
Mr.G.
Alright, what's up, Big Block? Dave London's back. It's like the mods and steering lot. King Waffle. I just ordered some gourmet Belgian waffles today. I ordered $200 of groceries. Whoa, I'm having a dizzy spell. About to pass out. Oh. Shake it off, shake it off, shake it off. Ooh, shake it off. Get the blood to the brain. Alright, GX everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Friday. Thursday. Today. Good weekday. Whatever. But yeah, I ordered a bunch of groceries today. And do you guys like the AI, or should I turn it off? Anyways, they forgot the bread and the eggs, which was disappointing, but you know, it happens. All right. Can't believe I forgot my pointer yesterday. How can I teach without a pointer? And I forgot I had all these markers in here. I'm sure some of them work better than the ones we were using. Because I got a little soul in my voice. Am I allowed to use that voice? I'd rather sit. I'd rather stand. Right. Today we're going to learn about Imagine. What's in the title? Imagine all the people. Imagined. Let's see if we got a better marker. I ordered a bunch more of these, so no complaining. Imagine communities. This is a lesson in sociology. And if you're looking for an easy major in college, you're not going to find one easier than sociology. You're also not going to find one that has lower paying jobs than a social worker. However, Mr. G received his degree in print journalism from a prestigious journalism school where the average graduate makes $50,000, $60,000 a year. Mr. G obviously does not make that much teaching from home. But this is my second actual teaching stream, official stream, maybe the third one, and they are improving and getting better, and I am gonna continue doing that, and I am doing other teaching from home as well. So regardless of how much money I make with my degree, I didn't get a degree to get a particular job. Sorry, TTS must have went off there. Cheap Charlie. I'm somewhat familiar with Cheap Charlie, but he, anybody that travels to Honolulu County, Oahu, they have to participate in a 2-week quarantine. So wherever they're going, whether it's a hotel, a visitor, a bread and breakfast, or B&B. Communications degree is slightly different from a journalism degree, but a journalism degree is done in the communications school, if that makes sense. But anybody traveling to Hawaii here, they have to prove that they have enough for 2 weeks in a hotel. Or they have a family member, whatnot. Okay, I'm going to turn off this light, see if we can see the board better. Okay, I can't always move the camera too. Let's see, maybe this black one will work better. Nope. Let's try this one instead. The chalkboard works better. Imagined communities. So while I make this a little more legible. Hey, Mrs. J. So I'm going to use the chalkboard in a second here. But okay, who can give me an idea of imagined community?
Mrs. J.
Start the lesson and everything. There's a football game? No way.
38,804 GX.
In August?
Mrs. J. The Mummy X.
Alright, so I got a
Mrs. J. The Mummy GX.
little decoration to the stream. So.
38,804 GX is imagined community, right?
Hey, Cody, that's right, Imagine Communities. Welcome, Cody. We missed you in class yesterday. What I'm going to do, and whether you guys like it or not, some of you will like it, I will be doing teaching streams every day, Monday through Friday, at 3 o'clock.
XFS, it's September.
Hey, XFS, you're right, it is September. I thought of that right after I said it, and XFS caught me on it. Can't throw anything back to it. Oh, okay. Interesting. That's an imagined community. That's a great example. So that's a perfect example of an imagined community. The NFL opening game today. So, like I was saying when Cody got here today, I'll be doing these teaching streams Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Hawaii time. Okay. Imagine community. So who makes imagined communities? Who? People in power, that's who. Where and when did imagined communities start coming about? Well, imagined communities start coming out in the 1700s.
Your Highness, what is the subject of the lesson today taking place?
The lesson today is imagined communities, is the lesson today. Imagined communities. Okay, imagined communities first came about in the 1700s. Before then, there weren't any communities. People didn't have state pride or country pride, or they didn't cheer for a particular sports team. That was absurd. People were more interested in staying alive and feeding their family. But so what happened in the 1700s that changed that? It was an invention that changed everything. It was one of the most important inventions of all time. That changed it's similar to the invention of the internet, the spreading of information. Who knows? The invention that changed everything was similar to the internet, the printing press, right? After the printing press came about, people had local newspapers and local periodicals printed in their own language, and it created a sense of community. It created something like, people, felt like one. And since humans are tribal in general, it's not hard to get them to join a group. Look at what's going on right now. Do you guys see any tribalism right now in the United States? Do you see any people making group thinking and using pressure of groups, going into restaurants and harassing patrons, making them do a particular hand sign or salute? You know what that is? That's an imagined community. Imagined communities came about, like I said, during the onset of the printing press, and they're a construct of the state and of power, of people making money. This NFL game today, no offense, XFS, I've spent hours and hours watching NFL games in my life for years, but it's a waste of time. The reason they want you to think it's important is they're using the imagined community to make money, to profit on all those commercials. How long is a football game? The sheep mentality. Humans are generally sheep. The majority of humans, 70% or something, it's in my first book, they don't go within a 50-mile radius of their hometown. It is the sheep mentality, but the fact of the matter is a football game lasts, if you look at it objectively, if you look at it analytically, all right, if you're practical about it, a football game is over 3 hours long, okay? You're only awake for 16 hours a day. That's a dang good percentage of the day. What is the average person that spends 3+ hours watching a football game actually getting from that 3+ hours? Are they learning anything? Are they profiting in any way? Well, if they have money on the game, but the majority of the people don't bet money on the game. They just watch the game and they cheer for their home team. If they're in Kansas City, then, oh, the Chiefs are playing, we gotta watch. If they're in San Francisco, oh, the 49ers are playing, we gotta watch. But the fact of the matter is, it's an imagined communities. It's a faked construct. It has little to no bearing on the individual's life that's actually watching the game. And they use this idea of imagined community, and and they do it with slogans like "Go Spurs, go!" and emblems and garbs. Just when you're a part of a tribe or a group, you have certain markings, And so Bulls fans, if you're in Chicago, you see Chicago Bulls things everywhere. If you're in San Antonio, you see San Antonio Spurs things everywhere. You look at state license plates. Each state license plates is very individualistic and individual to that particular state, right? What that does is that creates an imagined community. Oh, you got that state? What state you rep? What you represent? Oh, you represent Hawaii. What non-Hawaii? Because people aren't driving in and out, obviously. So out-of-state plates are rare in Hawaii. But when you're on the mainland, you're like, oh, we're New Mexico here. What are you, Arizona? Oh man, or Washington and Oregon. It's oh, those Washington, pay some taxes. Go back to Washington, get out of Oregon. Stuff like that. That's in imagined communities. There's generally no geographical border. With this instance of Oregon and Washington, there's the Columbia River, but generally it's a fake border. It's imagined community. Those people are willing to die for this imagined community. And I'm not talking about sports teams, but if you look at soccer hooligans in England, it goes a little freaking far there, and people have died for their beloved sports team. Okay, I'm gonna pause there for a second. I forgot to take roll. That was just a intro to what we're going to be going over this hour. So
how does this relate to Great Depression?
The Great Depression was yesterday. This is a totally different topic. Thursdays is psychology, sociology. Wednesdays is U.S. history. Okay, so. All right. When I say your name, I want you to say here. Okay. Mrs. J. Mrs. J. Okay, I know you're here, Mrs. J. I heard you. I'm just gonna put a check. Big Block is here. Lita? I haven't heard from Lita today. Lita, are you here? Okay, no Lita. Okay, Cody. Cody. Cody is here. Shoshan, are you here? Shoshan. Something's wrong with the stream title? Fuck! Sorry, I'm sorry.
Mr.G on his caps, letters and packages. PO Box 37,305 Honolulu, Hawaii, 96837. Penny 8,804, here. Frenchie, can I go to the bathroom?
1 second, Frenchie.
Drusilla, here's time smiley face.
Thank you for pointing out the stream title. I thought I changed it. Everybody keep a nice positive language, please. Lita, welcome. Once again, thank you. Lita is present. Thank you so much. Anonymous chip $10. Thank you very much, Anonymous. Anonymous gets to go on the tip board. I'll just put A9. $10. Thank you very much, All right. Lita is here. She's tardy, but that's fine. Better to be late than not here at all. One of my favorite expressions is I'm never late, I'm never early, I always arrive at exactly the right time. Right? Okay. Yeah, exactly. So XFS is here. Dabzilla, welcome. Long time no see. Dabzilla is here. Who are we missing? We're missing some people. Lord Hines is here. Uncle Mead is here. Frenchie's here. Ex Dinocore is here. You must be new to the school. Welcome. Dave London, like I said, is here. Lord Hines, welcome everybody. Welcome to the program. I hope you guys enjoyed the introduction there. That's basically what we're going to be going over in today's lesson. This is a sociology course, Sociology 101. It's a live stream, learn from home, GX style. All right. Once again, we're going to upgrade the markers. I apologize, they're not that bright. That's what I said about my last class. I apologize if there wasn't right.
Please be nice. Don't tell about what to do.
Okay. So, imagine communities.
Hi, Mr.G. Sorry, late.
Hey, Master Dan.
Mr.G. There was no demo.
Go ahead and have a seat.
Sorry, I didn't make the class.
Okay. So, during the introduction, we went over a few imagined communities. Sports teams are an example of an imagined community. Countries are example of imagined communities. Cities are examples of imagined communities. States are examples of imagined communities. And also organizations. The Nazis were an imagined community. Any organizations now that you guys might see in the news that are very aggressive with their tactics of getting people to follow their lead, and they're very belligerent. That's an example of imagined community as well. So what an imagined community does is it takes out the individual's importance and makes it more as a whole. A cult is a great example of an imagined community. All right. The second cult to try to come to Hawaii in the last summer was sent away because they do that here.
Dabzilla tipped $5.
Hey!
Let's try this again, GX.
Thank you, Dabzilla, $5. Thank you, dude. Aloha. So, hey, Antilla, aloha. I was going to talk about Canada. Thanks for the subscription. Everybody subscribe to the channel. Okay, so I was talking about Canada here. So in the United States, we have a really apathetic culture. Believe it or not, most people, they do not care. Most people don't vote. It's very easy to vote, but most people don't. Only 20% of the NBA is registered to vote. Okay? They're really big on political slogans. They're really big on putting strange things in the back of their jerseys, but only 20% of the NBA is registered to vote. I bet our NBA spokesperson, LeBron James, probably has never voted in his life. Statistically speaking, only 1 out of 5 players have voted, right? I mean, oh, you're racist. Nope. I'm being objective. So, once again, I don't want to incorporate any of my own opinions into the lesson. And politics was yesterday anyways. Okay. No more disturbing the class. Any topics, any comments should be related to imagined communities, okay? This is Sociology 101, and we're learning about imagined communities. All right. It sounds like there's a lot of testosterone in this class, guys. I know it's right after lunch. A lot of you, are excited to, get home and well, actually, we're not in school, actually. But anyways. Okay, another great example of imagined communities. Some of you might be in the United Kingdom, right? Or some of you, J-Mac was here yesterday. J-Mac, are you here? Is J-Mac in the class today? No? Okay, so in England, an example, the idea of imagined communities was invented in England, and it's stronger there than anywhere else in the world. I brought up soccer hooligans at the opening of this lecture, and that's an idea of imagined communities. So what's the biggest the biggest football team in England? I guess it would be, I like the Tottenham Spurs, but that's me being a fool too. Me being a sheep. Why do I like the Tottenham Spurs? I've never been to Tottenham. I never plan on going to Tottenham. I like the Tottenham Spurs because I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and I grew up liking the San Antonio Spurs. So when I heard about the Tottenham Spurs and I had to choose an English football club, I was like, oh, I'll go with the Spurs, But the fact of the matter is, I'm not part of the Tottenham Spurs community. It's an imagined community. It doesn't exist. It's not real. You're wasting energy, thought, money on merchandise for nothing. Time is money. You don't waste time watching football games. Unless you have money on the games, unless you're making money on betting on the games, then it has no relevance towards your own life. Okay, while we're talking about England, okay, another example of imagined communities.
Cody 8,804 super chatted $2.99. CL asterisk doesn't know exits for fire drills.
Hey Cody, thank you very much. Aloha. So, alright, professional sports teams is a good example of imagined communities, but also countries is a great example of imagined communities. So, in England, excuse me, the UK, the United Kingdom, Britain, what is it, you know? Ireland, Scotland, what are they? What are they part of? Are you know, over here, us Yankees and the rest of the world, we don't, like, not necessarily everybody knows the distinction between Great Britain, England, and the United Kingdom. Like, I consider myself a very well-rounded, intelligent person, and I'm actually not 100% sure. I know it's either Ireland or Scotland. They're part of the United Kingdom, but they're not part of Great Britain, right? But they're part of the English Peninsula. Is that correct? So that's another example of imagined communities. Imagined. Imagined communities. England. Britain. The UK. Hey, Cletus, aloha, welcome. So these are imagined communities just in the Britain. Wales. However, I want you to take personal opinions out of it. Look at this from an analytical perspective. What does analytical mean? Well, think of yourself as a space alien. Yes, that's what I said, a space alien. You're in outer space, right? And you just got to Earth, okay? And you're going like, whoa, I'm like, I can't, you're like, you and your friend, you're with your alien friend, right? And you just got to Earth, and you're like, wow, we're at Earth, let's check out what they're doing, all right? And then you look down, and the first place you look is the English Peninsula. What is the English Peninsula called? The freaking island. Anyways, you look at that island, right? And it's one island. So you look at the island, and it's one massive piece of land. Ireland, Scotland. All right, it's one massive piece of land. So when you look at it in an analytical perspective, you look at it, and it's all one land. You could say like, oh, okay, that's a community around the ocean, because human beings, they don't really breathe underwater or live underwater, and so their community would be this whole land mass right here, right? That would be the analytical, objective, like natural way of thinking about things. However, with the imagined community construct, which humans have created, the imagined community, what is it? It's fake. It's not real. It's fake. It was made to create money and control the population. Aloha. It was made to, imagined communities were created to make money and control the population. Because once again, a football game costs long 3 hours. When you're trying to control the population, what do you want them to do? You want them to spend the majority of their time staring at a television set, not doing their own thing, not thinking on their own. Look how long cannabis has been illegal around the world. Okay, what does it do? It opens up your mind. It relaxes your brain. It prevents you from needing hardcore medication. But for some reason it's illegal, and that's because people don't want the people in charge. They don't want you thinking for yourself. All right, what were we talking about before that? Anyways, I'll look at my notes here in a second. Do we have any questions so far? Well, that's the big point to stick on. All right, the imagined communities are not real. If you were a space alien and you came down and you looked at the English island, you would see it as one island, not separated into England, Britain, UK, Wales, Ireland, Scotland. Those are all constructs of man. Fake imagined communities. Just like sports teams. People live and die for their sports teams, right? All right, I mentioned the English hooligans in football in England, right? Soccer. They go crazy for their football, right? You know, there's images of them shaking the chain fence or whatever. So the thing is, I'll give you another example. That's just not in the UK, right? All right, college football in the United States is huge. And like right now, you know, during the pandemic, it's not like going on too much and there's not crowds and co-eds and stuff. But each major university has a huge college football team. And I went to the University of Texas in Austin, and college football is king. And the year that I started school there, they had just finished winning like the championship, right? Now, hey Susie, I don't smoke weed during class, so if I don't smoke weed during class, you guys can't smoke weed during class. So I encourage you to smoke your weed before class. Okay, or after class. So college football in the United States is huge, and I see at these universities, in particular in the South, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, you know, a majority Louisiana, many of these states, they don't have professional football teams. There's no, or professional sports teams at all. There's no professional sports teams in Alabama. There's no professional sports teams in South Carolina. Their professional sports team is the college team, just like Austin, Texas. There's no professional sports teams in Austin, Texas. But the Longhorns, they sell a shitload of merchandise. It's Longhorn crazy in Austin. Longhorn hats, Longhorn shirts. The football games, you know, 100,000 people go to the football games. The traffic everywhere. Longhorns, they got their slogans. Longhorn, Texas fight, Texas fight, Texas fight. What did the Nazis do? They had slogans that you repeated over and over. Texas fight, and something like a motion with your arm. Texas fight, Texas fight. You know, it's total brainwashing. It's a total imagined community. All right, I'll give you an example. Hey, Mark, aloha. Okay, the schools in the South, Alabama, South Carolina, the SEC, these are the top football schools, right? They sell more football tickets than professional football teams, right? And so 100,000 people go to these games, and the student section is like crazy. The student section, that's where you see the dudes with the shirts off that has like the letters TEXAS spelled out. And everybody's going crazy in the student section, and you see the young female co-eds and everybody's drinking and stuff, and if the team's winning, everybody's like acting like they're winning $1 million, like, Alabama's winning, oh my god, we're winning the game, this means everything, it's the world, everything my whole life has to do with this football game. I'm not really sure of the rules of football, but it's worth everything, yeah! You know, and then if their team is losing, they're in the crowds, and I look in the crowds, and there's these like beautiful blonde co-eds, and they're like, oh my god, my team is lost. You know, like, bro, bitch, you don't even know the game of football. It takes like a year to learn the rules of football, and you can tell by looking at her that she doesn't even know the rules of football. What is she? She's a sheep. Family too. Did we F? We did F, huh? Dude, that's fucked up. Who's controlling this? I get all emotional when like the fucking Truman Show's like stop the stream. The Truman Show is like,
Mr.G, the money, saved.
we got Truman Show here.
Next, you correct. Buffering. Uncle beat the AAAAA 12 bar. Down 7 is good.
Are we good?
38,804 is back. Stream elements. Thumbs up. Don't use Mr.G with text-to-speech. Thumbs up page. TTS parent/stream elements.com/5/6.
All right, class.
Members of economic class.
Sorry, I kind of lost it there. The FCC must have, shut down the stream for a second. Now,
Mix around. You're funny.
thank you, Lisa.
Smoking loud. Sorry, I'm late for class, Mr.G.
Yeah, you could say that, Smoking Loud. But class starts at 3 o'clock, okay? Come on in. Have a seat.
Thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the like button and sub to the
Okay.
Thumbs up.
You can get the notes from somebody else. Okay, so imagine communities. So this whole idea, this whole concept of imagined communities came up by Benedict Anderson.
Stream elements. You can send Mr.G or his cats letters and packages. PO Box 37,305 Honolulu, Hawaii, 96837.
The Democrats are imagined community. The Republicans are an imagined community. And like most Democrats, they're Democrat in name only. They don't go to Democratic parties or have Democratic friends, maybe online in social groups, but it's an imagined community, just like the GOP. So imagined communities, the idea came up with sociologist Benedict Anderson. Now I'm going to read a couple quotes from him right now that really sum up the whole idea of imagined communities.
Benedict Arnold is a traitor.
Not Benedict Arnold, Benedict Anderson. Why is it Mr. Anderson? Sorry, that's inappropriate. Come on. Mr. Anderson, what makes your imagined communities imagined? Nessa, welcome here. We're 40 minutes in the class, but welcome to join us. Please have a seat. All right, imagined communities. Picture communities imagined. And he said, well, the members of even the smallest nation will never know most of their fellow members, meet them, or even hear of them, yet in the minds of each lives of the image of their communion. So it's an imagined community because the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Tottenham Spurs, you can say with any imagined community, you generally don't know the people that are in this community. If you're a fan of Donald Trump, you probably don't have a lot of Donald Trump fans. You might be a part of a few internet groups, but the majority of MAGA supporters, you don't go to Trump parties and have Trump dates and stuff like that. It's an imagined community. Watch it, Dario. I didn't hear what you said. Okay. So it gets even more complicated when you talk about country and cultural identity. And it's becoming more and more complicated now that there's mass migration across the world and people are connected with the internet. I'll give you an example. What makes somebody Japanese, class? What makes an individual Japanese? Are there any white Japanese? Are there any black Japanese? What makes somebody Japanese? Cody, that's not funny. And the Japanese don't eat cat. What makes somebody Japanese? Is there white Japanese? Black Japanese. Well, it used to be when you said somebody was Japanese, and it still is mostly, but it used to be when you said somebody was Japanese, you know, you have a particular image in your head. You know? Okay. Okay. So, there's a particular NBA player. His first. See, now we have millions of people, tens of millions of people, almost a billion people migrating from other countries, from Africa and from the Middle East to Europe and to Asia. So, for the first time ever, we have Greeks that are black. The MVP winner, the back-to-back MVP winner, is a player for the Milwaukee Bucks. He just got eliminated from the playoffs. His name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's a black Greek player, right? But who I'm talking about now is another NBA player, and his name is Rui Hachimura. What makes somebody Scottish? Can there be a black Scottish? Okay, so his name is Rui Hachimura. Alright? He's a basketball player. Rui Hachimura. He's a basketball player for the Washington Wizards basketball team. He just finished his first year in the NBA. Okay? Now, Rui Hachimura is from Japan. But if you took a look at, he was born and raised in Japan. And if you took a look at him, you wouldn't have guessed that, because he looks like a large black man. He is a large black man, right? Except Rui Hachimura, he's Japanese. He's never, he didn't learn how to speak English until he's 21 years old, up to a couple years ago. Susie, you're gonna have to let the new thoughts just jump in your brain. So Rui Hachimura was born and raised in Japan. He had a black father and a Japanese mother, and he looks, you know, like a black. He's a very tall black man. But he's 100% Japanese, and he didn't speak anything but Japanese, the language of Japanese, his whole life, up until he came and started to play basketball in the United States. So he is 100% Japanese. Now you look at him, you're like, he's not Japanese. No, he's Japanese. But in the construct of the imagined community, he's not Japanese, because for thousands of years, when you thought of somebody that's Japanese, you picture a shorter Asian man. So is Rui Hachimura Asian? Well, his mom is, I guess he's half Asian, right? But, I mean, like, that's why it's becoming really blurred, and the future's going to be even more so. So, all right, Australian is a good example too. So Chris Jackson, you know, he's a viewer that has donated to the stream before. Chris Jackson is in Australia, and what makes somebody Australian? Because when you think of Australian, you generally think of a Caucasian person, right? But Australia is the largest island in the world, and the Caucasian and people have been living there for thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years. The Aboriginals were there for thousands of years before the Caucasians, white people, came there. And if the continent, the island, is called Australia, like, there were people there for thousands of years, the Aboriginals. So but that's not what you think of when you hear somebody saying they're Australian, or we have a bunch of Australians coming to the farm. when you hear that, you think of, you know, Caucasian people, right? With an accent. But there were people in Australia for thousands of years before they got there. That's another example why imagined communities are fake. They're not real. They're created by man. No, gender is not an imagined community. Everything else we talked about, gender is an objective. Yeah, but we don't want, that's a slippery slope, and we don't want to go. So, the overall lesson here is imagined communities are all around us. And the point is, they're not real. They're social constructs used as a way to initiate control over a group of people. So, so the best thing to do is be aware. Because it's all about control. There's groups out there, they want to control. And it's more prevalent and obvious now. Hey Dolphin, long time no see. Now than ever before. You know, you have these organizations. This election is the most important election of our life. But the thing is, it's the most disturbing election of our life because there's outside groups that are willing to burn down our cities, and there's lies coming through the media every freaking day. Trump's taking the troops out of Iraq, and so they put out a story, Trump hates the troops. What was the news today? Like every day it's something new. It's just absurd. It's just fucking crazy. And you can't believe anything that, the news today was Trump knew about the coronavirus, blah, blah, blah. And both sides are just, the left is lying way more than the right, I would say. But it's just absurd. It's totally crazy. And the fact of the matter is, there's groups of sheep out there, and they go with the crowd, and they're easily manipulated. Humans in general are easily manipulated. I remember when the virus first started and I was wearing a mask, I remember people would come into the chat and they'd be like, why are you wearing a mask? Haven't you heard? Dr. Fauci said that if you wear a mask, it's bad. You're not supposed to. And I'm all thinking, oh, well, I don't believe them. I believe my own logic, you know? Like, there's just sheep everywhere in the world. And, you know... But yeah, so I hope you guys learned a little bit. We're going to go over a review. So an imagined community is generally created to initiate control over a group of people. Like right now, I think there's... Exactly. People need to exercise critical thinking. What I think of what was that? The Backstreet Boys? Alright. Imagine communities. They're fake communities initiated to have control.
Art, Sam packages and isolates to Mr.G to the box 37,305 Hawaii, 96837.
So for whatever reason, I see a bunch of imagined communities coming up now, like BLM, Patriot Prayer. See, I'm not taking sides here, guys. Proud Boys.
I'll do it again. Where is Britain?
MAGA. Antifa. Now, there are people that have and are willing to die for these communities. It's absurd. It's crazy. But that's how it works. Like I said, people are sheep. And, you know, these communities, BLM, Patriot Prayer, Proud Boys, MAGA, Antifa, they're all imagined communities, and they're all not in the best interest of the individual. They're in the best interest of the group, not the individual. You know why? Because to have an imagined community, you need a group. And individuality, it's not allowed in imagined communities. You know why? Because when you have individuals, you lose control. Who's ever creating these imagined communities, they're doing it for control. They're not doing it for good. They're not doing it for prosperity. They're doing it for control. They're doing it to make money. They're doing it to control a population. And that goes with sports teams. That goes with borders. That goes with countries. That goes with state license plates. And that goes with all these groups that have been in the news headlines lately. They're doing it for control.
Mr. Nicotino, hello everyone. I was watching the NFL game when it's halftime. Decided to check on.
Hey, Nicotino, welcome.
Check it out.
So that's funny, there's a Japanese flag right there, huh? So I forgot my mustache today.
Big call, so Mr. Nicotino.
So, you see these groups like in Seattle, you had the CHOP or whatever, Chaz. That's an imagined community that doesn't exist. However, the city of Seattle, guess what? That's also an imagined community. The state of Washington, that's an imagined community. There's a border between Washington and Oregon. There's a natural border, the Columbia River. But overall, it's an imagined community. If you look at it from an analytical perspective, if you were an alien that had never come to Earth before, and you got to Earth, and you looked down and you saw that people had all these invisible, literally invisible borders, you would laugh your ass off. Because I guarantee you, if you're a space-traveling freaking alien, back on your home planet, you're not blowing each other up with bombs. You know, once you live to like, you conquer life and you can live like forever, like you're not going to go around and just start random around violence and shit. The way evolution works, it seeds out the fucking idiots. Over millions of years, alright, now we're getting into science. But, this is the Andromeda Galaxy, I believe. Here. Over in this direction, there's civilizations and planets that are millions of years older than we are, right? So after millions of years of evolution, like human beings haven't been around for even 200,000 years, not even that. And you add millions of years to that, millions of years of evolution, we're going to weed out all the fucking bad people. And there's the aliens that are in space right now, we would consider them gods, basically. They're basically gods to us. Okay. I don't want to get too much off the topic. We're sticking with imagined communities here. So I'll go over a general consensus. We'll read another quote from the wonderful Benedict Anderson. And the chalkboard's going to be here in a couple days too. And if you weren't aware, Nicotino, anybody new that's not keeping up, I'm going to be doing these teaching streams every day at 3 o'clock Hawaii time. So this time every day.
Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That's correct. If we survive 2020.
So Benedict Anderson. So Monday through Friday, guys, Benedict Anderson, that's who we're learning about. Benedict Anderson and his imagined beings. But while I'm on the topic here, I'm decided to do these teaching streams every day now, Monday through Friday, at 3 p.m. Hawaii time. And then I'll still do the dancing streams on Friday after the teaching streams. So that's Monday. We'll have world class. Tuesday, we'll have science. Wednesday, psychology.
Send Mr.G on his cat senses of packages. PO Box 37,300 Hawaii 96837. Mr. Nicotina, this is actually good considering any schools are closed due to COVID-19. Not FGX.
Thursday, history or government. And Friday will be random. So Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Hawaii time. So if you're on the West Coast, it's 6 o'clock. On the East Coast, it's 9 o'clock, up until daylight savings time.
So what do we do? It's on the schedule. Pocket holes, can I go to toilet, Mr. G?
Yes, you may go to the toilet. Okay, once again, I'm going to read a quote by Benedict Anderson. So, I'm not expecting you guys to remember everything that we went over in this lecture. However, you should remember the basic points. Hey, Mark Miller. Okay, so I'm going to read a quote from Benedict Anderson. The members of even the smallest nation... Oh, no. I already read that part. Ultimately, it is the fraternity that makes it possible over the past 2 centuries for so many millions of people not so much to kill as willing to die for such limited imaginings. I'm going to read that one more time. You guys pay attention. Ultimately, it is the fraternity that makes it possible over the past 2 centuries for so many millions of people not to so much to kill as willingly to die for such limited imaginings. So, Mr. G, I've always been a lone wolf. Oh, right? I never listen to anybody. You know, cats are solitary animals. And that's the thing. I won't ever go along with the group. I disagree with Jordan Peterson, the great Dr. Jordan Peterson of Canada, when he says that if you were alive in Nazi Germany, the majority of people, like 99.9% of people, would fall in with the group and do all those horrible things. I would not. I've never fallen in with the group. I've always been ostracized from day one. Hey, Shoshin. Hey, Mrs. J, have a safe drive wherever you're driving to. So, Benedict Anderson, he really had a point here. You know, I mean, he really had something here.
Mrs. J, the Melody, Israel, thank you, dear. You're so sweet. Bingo, subscription. Mrs. J, the Melody, my subscription. Mrs. J, the Melody, leaving tomorrow.
So, all right, I'll touch on one more topic on being black in England. Okay, so in America we have the term African American. What's the term in England? There's black people in England, right? Well, the difference is the United States is a relatively young country, less than 300 years old. England is an extremely old country, way older than the United States. And also England has had colonization throughout the world, and they colonized Africa and enslaved Africans for hundreds of years. So being black in England is much different than being black in the United States. I saw an interview with somebody, and it's a black woman, and she's like, it's really hard to be black and to be English because it's kind of contradictory. When you think of English, you don't think of a black person. Here, I'll turn the fan now. Well, we didn't have any other complaints throughout the class, so maybe you should get that hearing checked. So, when I first moved to Hawaii, I had a friend named Dylan. Dylan might watch the stream sometimes too. But Dylan was from England, and he was a Scouse. And a Scouse is a nickname from like a hard-working person from Liverpool. And Dylan, why was I talking about Dylan? Oh yeah. So Dylan, I had a couple other black friends at the time too. And Dylan from England would hang out with me and the black friends. And the black friends were in the military and from the mainland, so they talked like, a lot, how a lot of African Americans talk. And after we left and we went back to Dylan's house, Dylan was like, I can't believe how they were talking without accent and everything. And I was like, why? That's how black people talk. He's like, well, it's totally different in the UK. Class, I'm trying to tell a story here. Come on. So so Dylan is from Britain, right? And we visit these American black kids, and I think we were buying some weed or something. But we hung out with them a little bit, smoked a blunt with them, and then they're talking normal like American black slang. And then after we leave, Dylan from England, he's like, I can't believe black Americans talk like that. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, in England we have black people too, but everybody has the same accent. Generally, if you're from London, you speak with a certain dialect. If you're from Wales, you speak with a certain dialect. If you're from a Scouse, you speak with a certain dialect. And it has less to do with the color of your skin and more to do with the neighborhood that you're from or the area that you're from. And that's something that's totally different. And that has to do with segregation in the United States. The United States is still extremely segregated. Generally, people live with people of their own ethnic background, and it's always been like that. You look at old school New York, the Irish had a neighborhood, the Poles had an area, the Italians had an area, and then now you have your Mexican areas, your black areas, and and then poor white people are scattered in between all those areas. But overall, that's what he said. The biggest difference was that American black people, they have a certain accent and a certain culture, whereas black people in England, it's more of a shared culture. So do we have any questions about imagined communities? And overall, what the best thing to take from this lecture is that imagined communities, they're initiated to the ethnic makeup of the world is changing, with the example of Rui Hachimura, the black Japanese basketball player. Keanu's looking at this stick like, oh yeah. But also, if you look at these organizations in the news today, BLM, Proud Boys, Antifa, these are all artificial, imagined community. Most of the members, they don't ever meet up with the other members. They were just created out of thin air just to initiate control or to gain power. Either to initiate control or to gain power is the other one. Control or power. So beware of imagined communities. Hey, Muslim. The enemy of an imagined community is what? Yes. The enemy of an imagined community is an individual. You need to be able to think for yourself. And don't let groups like BLM or Patriot Prayer or Proud Boys or Antifa think for you. You think for yourself. The enemy of an imagined community is an individualistic brain. Being able to think for yourself. Not just going along with everything BLM says. Not just going along with everything Proud Boy says. Not just going along with everything Antifa says. Being able to think for yourself is the most important skill. And they're imagined because they don't exist.
Big Block tipped $5. So what you're saying, it's all imagined communities.
Exactly, Big Block. We can do show and tell on Friday. So overall, I'm just starting the schedule here, but it's going to be Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Hawaii time. And I'll go for an hour or sometimes 2 hours, and sometimes I'll do other streams after that, like dancing streams and running streams. And I'll still do gaming streams during the day as well. So I showed you the example of how cultural identity is changing as far as imagined communities goes. So with all the immigration, mass immigration, the largest immigration in the history of humankind has been happening over the last 5-10 years, if you weren't aware. And also with the way people are connected, Nessa, through the internet and through the World Wide Web. You don't hear that expression too often. But the way people are connected and the way that immigration comes, turn on the news, look at the Greek islands. There's boats packed with African immigrants all going to Europe to take advantage of their welfare system. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, all right? The countries that they're coming from in the Middle East and Africa, they don't have a welfare system. Their families are dying of starvation. They're willing to risk their life to cross across the Mediterranean Sea or go the land route. They risk their lives to make a better life for themselves and for their families. And you're seeing that throughout the world. So the whole idea of a Japanese person being a short Asian man, that's going to be gone in 100 years. The idea of an Australian being a Caucasian Australian person is gone too. Not that that's a bad thing, but that's just how things are. Like, you're not going to be able to separate country with identity anymore. Well, maybe not in our lifetimes. Some of the younger ones, maybe when you're an older person, it's going to be like that. But 100 or 200 years from now, they're going to look back at the past, and it's inevitable. We're all going to be mixed together, and there's no stopping. Okay, so as far as nations go, the idea of an imagined community, even though we're all mixing together, the idea of an imagined community isn't going away. People are still going to have wars with each other. Did you know an interesting fact? If your country makes it to the World Cup, you're like 10 times more likely to attack another country if your country didn't make it to the World Cup. Interesting statistic. But anyways, regardless of the racial mixing, which is perfectly fine, there's still going to be imagined communities. People are still going to be willing to die for their country. You know, they want to act like there's a race war going on. I mean, yeah, they want to act like there's a race war going on, but really it's a class war. They're not. Okay, go to the bathroom and come right back. We're ending the lecture right here, though. And you can hold it for 5 minutes. All right. So this quote by Benedict Anderson really sums it up as far as nations go. So I don't hold my. I was born and raised in the United States, but I wouldn't die for the United States personally. But I'm also individualistic, and I don't adhere to imagined communities, do I? No, I don't. So, this quote here by Benedict Anderson will be on the test. Regardless of the actual inequality and exploitation that many of the nations is always conceded as a deep horizontal camaraderie. So no matter of the inequality a nation may have, you look at North Korea as the first country that I think of. When I hear that quote, no matter of the inequality that may exist in the country, the country being the overall number one thing of all time is easy to convince itself because people are just sheep. All right, look at the great leader. When the last North Korean leader died, it was they made it into the biggest deal, and people were out in the street just wailing and crying, just like, no, my leader, no. Like, you never knew the dude, bro. You're fucking starving. That leader, the beloved leader of yours is like taking baths and champagne and shit, and your family is like sharing a loaf of bread. That's how fucking brainwashed the North Korean people were. Brainwashed into their imagined community. That's the best example. We'll end it with the North Korean example. They somehow, through propaganda, through hand signals, through saying the same things over and over, they've convinced the North Korean people that the most important thing in the world, through media suppression, through propaganda, they've convinced the North Korean people that the whole world is horrible and that people are dying of starvation in South Korea and in the United States, which is obviously not true. South Korea has one of the most strongest economies in the world. North Korea has one of the worst economies in the world, and they share the same peninsula. So that's an argument between communism, an argument against communism, I should say. But you look at the comparison between South Korea and North Korea. But anyways, the reason that North Korea has been able to implement so much control over their people is because of imagined communities, because they act like it's bigger than a sports team, you know. You look at North Korea, the Olympics are like the most important thing in the world because the neighbors are in chat. Hey neighbors, you're gonna have to leave me alone or you're gonna get into trouble. Plain and simple. Get a life, neighbors. I'm trying to teach a class here. Okay. So, any questions? Anyone? Let's get water. All right. So overall, you want to be an individual. You want to think for yourself. You don't want to follow the group. These groups over here, BLM, Patriot Prayer, Proud Boys, they're all groups, not individuals. If you want to get away from an imagined community, if you don't want to lose your life to a fucking rich billionaire, then you want to be an individual and you want to think for yourself. Because once you give that up, You give up all control and you give up all power. You want to think for yourself. Don't pledge allegiance to any group or any race or any country or any state or any sports team. Think for yourself. It's the damn best way to go, because the majority of the people are sheep. And if you want to be successful in this world, you can go follow the crowd, but you're never going to stand out, and you're never going to be remembered, and you're never going to make a difference, and you're never going to make the world a better place. You want to be an individual and think for yourself, and that's the only way that change happens. And this world does need change. Think of the little kids that died of starvation last night. Think of the mother and baby freezing right now. There's a mama and a baby freezing right now, and there's a million empty apartments in New York. So there's some change that needs to happen in this world. I don't think we have a dunce cap. Okay, so let me go ahead and erase this. Maybe take a picture of it first. Bye. Yeah, it does. I left that out though because I didn't want to offend anybody. Well, yeah, Shoshin, it does include religion. Humans in general are very tribal. They need to be part of a group. All right, you know, it goes back to infancy and to childhood. We were always, and it goes back into our DNA. When we were cavemen, we would always be part of a group. But just as growing up now, you know, when you're a kid, you're part of a family unit. You know, you're part of a group, and and that's what humans do. They separate themselves into groups, and they're tribal. So one group, you know, they live in this house, and the other group, they live in that house. Why do neighbors not get along? Because they're two separate groups, and there's animosity from the get-go. Because it's like, oh, I'm in my group and you're in your group. It's first, you know? Like, we're against each other. So humans just naturally do that for whatever reason. It's in our DNA. But we go ahead and erase this board here. Hope you guys enjoyed the lesson today. That was the first ever sociology lesson. These streams are just going to be getting better and higher quality as well. Like I announced earlier, I'll be doing them daily. And also I ordered a new chalkboard and a bunch of new chalk and a bunch of new markers and a bunch of school supplies. And I decided just to turn this whole room into my classroom. So, I'm really happy about that. And I still am going to do gaming streams during the daytime probably. But they're not scheduled. I have a legit schedule now. 3 o'clock every day. And we could probably do that. I don't see why not. So every day at 3 p.m. Thank you, appreciate it. Everyone try to show up on time. So it's 3 p.m.
Why don't you charge money for your lessons?
I do, on the side actually. That's what's been keeping me afloat the past 6 months. So 3 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So if you're on the West Coast, that'll be 6 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, it'll be 9 p.m. And if you're in the UK, it'll be 3 a.m. So every day, Monday through Friday. So Mondays, I think Monday would be a good science day. Don't you guys think? Because Monday, you know, it's the start of the week. You know, people, they don't really want to. It's the start of the week. People, you know, you want to like hear about something interesting, keep you awake. Science. So Mondays will be science. Tuesdays will be history. No, but the VOD will be up, and you are welcome to come in class. Even if you're going to be late, you're still welcome to come here at all. Even if you're just going to be here for the last 5 minutes, I still encourage you to come. So Tuesday will be history. Wednesday will be psychology. So Monday science, Tuesday history, Wednesday psychology, Thursday will be government. No sex education here. And Friday will be a random stream, usually world. We'll usually do a world lesson. We'll learn about another culture or another something fun. And then Saturday and Sunday, we'll be doing dancing and running streams. So Monday we have science, Tuesday history, Wednesday psychology or sociology like today. The next sociology lesson we're going to be doing, it's also relative to what's going on in the news today, and it's going to be on Marxism. You guys may have heard a lot about Marxists in the news recently, but a lot of people, they don't know who or what a Marxist is. Even the majority of the people that are in BLM, which is a Marxist organization, but I bet the majority of the people, they don't know what a Marxist is. That's something that will be done on Friday too, or in the world when we learn a new culture. So I'll have the whiteboard and I'll have a new blackboard. And each stream will start at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, right here in this beautiful classroom. And Lita was kind enough to send these awesome cards. I'm going to continue to decorate this classroom here and make it really nice, make it my own.
Mr.G is a Marxist, so his model then set off the Horatio Alger.
Horatio Alger, I haven't heard that name in a while. Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. The good old Horatio Alger, USA.
XFS, Honolulu is getting an expansion NFL team.
Really? Yeah. So, we'll still have the dancing streams. My Instagram's on the screen. Follow my Instagram. I'm doing a lot on it every day. And thanks again for these awesome cards. I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow, so hopefully there'll be some new cards there tomorrow. I'll be live again at the same time, 3 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. Okay, you can put the flag up tomorrow. That's a Japanese flag. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you learned some things. Okay, I ordered a blackboard. It will be here on Saturday. That's 2 days away. Okay? Or what is today? Thank you, Mrs. J. You're number one assistant. Lita, Big Block, thanks guys. Thanks for everybody who checked out the teaching stream today. I had a lot of fun learning about and teaching about Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities. Now tomorrow is Thursday, and I don't I don't have a lesson plan. So if anybody has any suggestions on what tomorrow's lesson could be, wait, what is today?
Thank you, Mr.G. See you too at an hour ROW.
Thanks. Is tomorrow Friday?
Thanks for the stream, Mr.G. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, tomorrow is Friday. It's hard to know what day it is.
Okay, thanks for the lesson.
Okay, so
Correct. Got a script. We'll take a parking lot after class.
Friday is the random stream. Class, everybody stay in your seats till the bell rings.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you guys for showing up. Tomorrow's Friday. That means we're gonna have a random class. So if anybody has any suggestions, we had Scientology suggested just earlier. So right now I'm leaning towards learning about Scientology tomorrow from a very objective standpoint. We don't want to take any sides on whether we're for Scientology or against Scientology. And I'm actually not a big fan of Scientology. So any other suggestions would be welcome too. Tomorrow is a random stream. So what we'll do is we'll learn something, maybe a world culture or something like that. Same time, 3 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So we'll start at 3 p.m. We'll go for about an hour and a half. And Friday is supposed to be the running stream. So what we'll do is we'll do the teaching stream at 3 p.m. We'll do it for an hour and a half. I keep itching here because I just shaved my bikini. I just had a bikini wax. Because tomorrow is the running stream. So I get to try on my new fancy, not leaving not much to the imagination, 3XL undies. So you want to make sure to yeah, we can do that. So tomorrow there's going to be a running stream after the teaching stream. Okay? Hopefully I don't have to shave anymore. But yeah, once again, my name is Mr.G. That's one M, one R, and one G. Mr.G Live. You know, I was hoping the person that delivered my groceries today was going to come in the chat. But if you're in the chat, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this politely, but you forgot my eggs and my bread, and I paid for those eggs and the bread, and I need my eggs and my bread. So if you can come by and just drop off those groceries, they're paid for it. I guess you left them in your car or something. But I need those eggs because I was going to make French toast. I have all the ingredients for French toast except for eggs. And I need the bread too. I need the eggs and the bread. So if you get this message, if you're watching the stream, just go ahead and come by and drop off those eggs and bread if you get a chance. Okay. So tomorrow, 3 o'clock, random stream. After that, we're going to be doing running. You want to check that out, Nessa, and all the ladies in the chat, and the dudes too. But yeah, thanks everybody. It was a really fun stream today. Every day we're going to be doing teaching streams, and I'm pretty excited about that. I haven't been this happy for a while. You're gonna see me dancing soon because I'm really enjoying this. The thing that I love the most of doing in life, I like to learn and I like to teach. And so I'm really enthused about this. I wake up and I can prepare a lesson, I can prepare a class, and I can teach it, and I enjoy it, and it's fun. So thanks everybody for being here. Same time tomorrow.